The Boltzmann Brain. What if everything you know, your past, your memories, your sense of self, is a lie created by random chance? Picture this. You awaken not in your bed, but in the cold void of space. No earth beneath you, no stars around you, only your consciousness floating. You remember your childhood, your favorite breakfast, your first heartbreak. But what if all of that is fake? Just random atoms that happen to arrange into a fully formed mind with implanted memories. This is the Boltzmann Brain paradox, and it just might unravel everything you believe about reality. In the late 19th century, physicist Ludwig Boltzmann was trying to make sense of entropy, the universe's natural tendency to move from order to disorder. Think about your bedroom. It's far easier for it to become messy than to magically clean itself. The cosmos works the same way, but in an infinite universe with infinite time, even the most improbable events must eventually happen. Like a monkey typing out Shakespeare if given enough time, atoms too can form bizarre structures, even brains. Now imagine two wildly different scenarios. In the first, everything we know, galaxies, stars, civilizations, evolved over 13.8 billion years from the Big Bang to form your present experience. In the second, just one conscious brain appears randomly in space, complete with your current memories. Here's where it gets weird. Scenario 2 is actually far more probable. Fewer atoms need to align perfectly to form a brain than to create an entire universe. Think of Lego bricks drifting in zero gravity. What's more likely, a tiny house forming by chance or a sprawling city? Obviously the house. In the same way, a single Boltzmann brain is a simpler, and thus more likely, occurrence than the entire universe. That unsettling logic leads us to this question. If Boltzmann brains are more probable than real universes, are we more likely to be one of them? What if everything you've felt, everyone you've loved, every moment you've cherished is nothing more than a fluke, a blip in the fabric of randomness? Some thinkers argue that this shows a flaw in how we view probability and existence. Others suggest it points to deeper truths, that perhaps we are all fleeting. Thoughts in a cosmic dream. But here's a comforting twist. Even if you are a Boltzmann brain, how would you know? Your experience feels real to you, and maybe that's all that matters. In challenging the nature of reality, this paradox invites us not into fear, but into wonder, into appreciating the profound strangeness of consciousness itself. Philosophical zombie. They look just like us. They laugh, cry, and sip coffee, but inside there's nothing. No thoughts, no self. Picture a lively cafe. Across from you, someone is deep in a book, occasionally glancing out the window, stirring their drink like they're lost in thought. But what if they're not thinking at all? What if they're acting conscious, without actually being conscious? This is the mind-bending idea of the philosophical zombie. It asks, can a creature exist that behaves exactly like a human, smiles, talks, loves, but has no inner life? Philosopher David Chalmers coined this thought experiment while exploring the hard problem of consciousness, not just how the brain functions, but why we feel anything at all. Philosophical zombies mimic us perfectly. They react, respond, even gasp in surprise, but it's all an act. There's no inner sensation behind their behavior. Like an incredibly advanced robot, they simulate life, but feel nothing. Their pain is an illusion. Their joy is empty. Why does this idea matter? Because it exposes how mysterious our own consciousness is. Why do we feel beauty when we see a sunset, instead of just noticing it? Why does fear grip us rather than just make us run? Could we function the same without awareness? Think of two computers. One does math. The other does math and plays music when it finishes. The music doesn't affect the result. It's just extra. Philosophers wonder, is consciousness like that music? An unnecessary soundtrack to survival? Imagine Alex walking in a forest and spotting a snake. Adrenaline kicks in, muscles tense, eyes lock on the threat. Now ask, does Alex need to feel fear to survive? Or could a zombie version of Alex run just as fast, act just as smart, without ever feeling anything? For Chalmers and others, this pushes against physicalism, the belief that all mental states come from physical processes. If a being can act human without consciousness, maybe consciousness isn't purely physical. Maybe it's something deeper, fundamental like gravity or time. Some reject this idea, saying it's impossible to separate human behavior from consciousness. that our inner experience is so deeply intertwined with action, they can't be divided. In this view, zombies are useful thought experiments, but not possible realities. Still, the concept stirs something deep within us. We know we're conscious because we feel it, but we can't prove anyone else is. That's what makes this idea haunting. How can we be sure others aren't zombies? How can we be sure we're not? Ultimately, the philosophical zombie isn't just about brains or biology. It's a mirror, showing us how little we truly understand our inner worlds, and asking, what is it that makes you feel alive? The butterfly dream paradox. Are you dreaming right now? Or is this your true reality? Only it just feels like a dream. Imagine a man lying under a tree, dozing as the leaves whisper in the breeze. In his sleep, he becomes a butterfly, soaring weightlessly through the air, bathed in golden sunlight. The experience is vivid, joyful, complete. Then he wakes, as a man again. And a question lingers. Was I a man dreaming I was a butterfly? Or a butterfly dreaming I'm a man? This ancient paradox comes from Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi, and it poses a question that has haunted thinkers for centuries. How can we ever be certain what's truly real? Our dreams often feel just as genuine as waking life. We fly, fall, fight, love, and it all feels real until we wake up. Zhuangzi's story taps into a universal truth. The mind is a master illusionist. Our senses construct a reality, so convincing that even a dream can feel like the world. But what if the reverse is also true, and our waking life is just another level of dreaming? It raises a profound question. Is there any absolute way to prove we're not dreaming right now? This isn't just abstract philosophies, it challenges how we trust our senses and perceptions. Our entire reality might be just a projection, filtered through our subjective minds. Think of reality like a film being projected. Each person's brain is a different projector, showing a slightly altered version of the same scene. We may share the same world, but each of us experiences it uniquely, filtered by memory, emotion, and belief. The butterfly dream also mirrors Western thought. Like Descartes' I think, therefore I am. Even he couldn't be sure the world around him was real, only that he was thinking. This echoes the Hindu concept of Maya, the idea that the world is an illusion, a veil hiding a deeper truth. Modern versions of this idea include the brain in a vat scenario, where a brain wired to a computer thinks it's living a full life, all simulated. It feels real, but it's not. And if it can't tell the difference, can we? Zhuangzi didn't offer a solution. Instead, he left us with the mystery. And maybe that's the point. He urged us to stop grasping for certainty, and instead embrace the ever-shifting, dreamlike nature of existence. Whether we're butterflies, humans, or something in between, perhaps the beauty lies not in knowing what's real, but in savoring each moment as if it is. The temporal experience theory. Why do the best moments feel like seconds, while boring ones stretch on forever? Ever noticed how an hour with a loved one vanishes in a blink, but 5 minutes in a dull? Meeting drags like an eternity. That strange elasticity of time isn't just in your head. It's part of what scientists call the temporal experience theory, which explores how our brains shape our perception of time. Think of time as a river. While its actual flow remains steady, our minds experience it very differently, based on where we're standing and what we're doing. This theory dives into that subjective current, how we live in time, not as ticking clocks, but as feeling, remembering beings. Let's start with a simple memory. Think back to your last vacation. In the moment, the days may have flown by, but when you recall them now, they feel long and vivid. Why? Because our brains create richer, more detailed memories during new experiences, which makes those stretches of time feel longer in hindsight. Novelty plays a huge role here. When you're in a new situation, first day of school, a new job, an unfamiliar city, your brain goes into high processing mode. It's capturing more information, which slows your experience of time. As we age, fewer things feel new, and so time seems to accelerate. That's why summers felt endless as a child, but now years vanish in a blur. There's also the holiday paradox. Vacations feel short while we live them, but long when we remember them. It's because your mind is taking mental snapshots, and the more snapshots, the fuller time feels. The richness of memory lengthens the past, even if the moment itself felt brief. Emotion matters too. When you're scared, say during a car accident, time seems to stretch. That's your brain increasing its internal frame rate like a slow-motion camera. More detail is processed, making seconds feel like minutes. The opposite happens when you're bored. Your brain disengages and time drags. And then there's attention, the ultimate time bender. When you're fully immersed in something, writing, playing music, even playing a game, psychologists call it flow. In this state, time disappears. But if you're watching the clock, every tick feels like an ache. So what can we learn from this? If you want to feel like life is longer and richer, create novelty. Try something new. Break routines. Pay closer attention. Think of your day like a photo album. The more distinct images you take, the fuller the story feels. You can't stop time from moving forward, but you can change how deeply you experience it. And that might be the key to making your finite life feel infinitely meaningful. The egg theory. What if every person you've ever met was actually you living a different life? Imagine you're walking home tired from the day when suddenly the world fades to black. You awaken in a strange place, calm, unafraid, and a figure approaches. Before you can speak, they say, "You're dead." But don't worry. This is just the beginning. This is the core of the egg theory, a short story by Andy Weir that delivers one of the most soul-stirring ideas in modern philosophy. You are everyone. Every life that has ever existed, past, present, or future, has been you. Living through different perspectives, according to the theory, Earth is an egg, a kind of cosmic incubator. Inside it, one soul lives through every human life to learn, evolve, and grow into something greater. You're not just you. You're also every king and beggar, every artist and criminal, every heartbreak and triumph that's ever unfolded across human history. Think of the implications. When you're kind to someone, you're being kind to yourself. When you hurt someone, you're hurting another version of you. Compassion isn't just a virtue. It becomes a form of self-love. Conflict is an internal misunderstanding between fragments of one being. Spiritual traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism echo similar ideas. The interconnectedness of all souls, the illusion of separation, the cycle of reincarnation. But the egg theory simplifies this beautifully. There is only one soul, experiencing all. In Weir's story, the protagonist learns this truth from a godlike being, not the bearded thunderbolt-throwing kind, but more like a calm, wise consciousness that reveals greatness isn't the goal. Understanding is, once every possible life has been lived, once you've experienced every pain and every joy, you will hatch into something greater. It's not about fame or wealth or even success. It's about perspective. To understand someone, you must be them. And through this journey, you are. Even science finds a strange resonance here. Some quantum theories suggest that consciousness could be a fundamental force in the universe, not just a byproduct of biology. Though unproven, these ideas lend poetic power to the egg's vision. Imagine living your life with this idea in mind. The rude cashier? That's you on a rough day. The kind stranger who helped you? You in another timeline. This way of seeing can shift everything, from judgment to empathy, from division to unity. Maybe the egg is just a story, but its message lingers long after the last word. We are not alone, because we are all one. The Matrix. What if everything you know is a lie? Imagine waking up to the terrifying truth that your entire world, your relationships, even your very thoughts, are part of a grand illusion. Welcome to the Matrix, not just a movie, but a deeply unsettling thought experiment that dares us to question the very fabric of reality. Though made famous by the 1999 film, the roots of this idea run deep in philosophy, asking whether what we perceive is truth or just a convincing illusion. At its core, the Matrix theory challenges the trust we place in our senses. Every single thing we know, from the color of the sky to the taste of food, is filtered through sight, touch, sound, smell, and taste. But if these signals were hijacked and replaced with artificial inputs, would we even know the difference? In a strange way, we already live in our own version of the Matrix, with the brain interpreting electric signals, like a computer decoding code. In the movie, humans live inside a virtual simulation, while their real bodies are harvested for energy. This idea echoes the philosophy of René Descartes, who once imagined an evil demon tricking us into believing in a false world. Today that demon might be AI, an intelligence advanced enough to fool us completely. While science fiction brings it to life, The Matrix taps into ancient doubts about the nature of existence. Centuries before the film, Plato told a similar story, the allegory of the cave. Prisoners chained since birth stare at a wall, believing that flickering shadows are reality. One escapes, sees the sunlit world and realizes the truth. The Matrix is this story reimagined for a digital age, shadows replaced by code, the cave swapped for simulation, but the message is unchanged. Real awakening means seeing beyond illusion. This idea isn't just for moviegoers or philosophers. Today, thinkers like Nick Bostrom argue it's statistically likely we live in a simulation. If future civilizations can build simulations indistinguishable from reality, and they create many of them, then chances are we're in one. It's not proof, but it's a chilling possibility that blurs the line between science, fiction, and philosophical science. Then comes the film's most iconic question, red pill or blue pill? Neo's choice isn't just symbolic, it's a deep inquiry into free will. Do we control our lives, or are we following paths pre-written by systems beyond us? Within the Matrix, every choice feels real, but is actually a response to programming. It's a powerful metaphor for how culture, media, and institutions shape our actions without us even realizing. Perhaps the most powerful theme in The Matrix is that of awakening, the painful, beautiful moment of clarity where illusion falls away. For Neo, taking the red pill isn't about finding new truths. It's about questioning what he thought he knew. This resonates with spiritual teachings like Buddhism's enlightenment or Socrates' call to examine life. Real truth often means letting go of comfort. And in many ways, The Matrix is real, not as a computer simulation, but as a metaphor. We live inside systems, media, technology, consumerism, that shape what we see, think, and value. Algorithms decide what we read. Social norms tell us how to behave, and we rarely stop to ask, is this real or programmed? Just like Neo, we're all invited to step outside that illusion. In the end, The Matrix doesn't offer answers. It leaves us with the ultimate question, what is real? And more importantly, if you discovered it wasn't, would you have the courage to face the truth? The red pill is more than a choice. It's a mirror, asking us whether we trade comfort for truth, safety for authenticity. For anyone who's ever questioned the world around them, The Matrix is more than a story. It's a challenge to wake up. The experience machine theory. Would you trade reality for perfect happiness? Picture a machine that could give you the ideal life, adventure, fame, love, success, all at the press of a button. You'd feel it all, joy, thrill, love, but it's all fake. Just wires sending signals to your brain. This isn't a sci-fi plot, it's a real philosophical challenge called the experience machine, proposed by Robert Nozick in 1974 to question the very meaning of happiness. Hedonism says pleasure is the ultimate goal, the only thing that truly matters. But Nozick's thought experiment throws a wrench into that belief. Once plugged in, you'd forget it's a simulation. The life you live will feel real, but it won't be real. So here's the dilemma. If pleasure is all that counts, why not plug in? At first glance, the machine offers everything we dream of, a world without heartbreak, failure, or struggle. You could live out a perfect love story, or wake up each day as a genius artist. The experience feels flawless, but it's all fabricated. The machine feeds your brain sensations that mimic real life, creating a seamless illusion of fulfillment. But Nozick argued that most people wouldn't plug in, and that tells us something powerful. We value more than just feeling good. We want our lives to mean something. We crave authenticity, the pride of real accomplishment, the depth of real relationships, and the growth that only comes through facing real challenges. All vanish inside the machine. Imagine climbing a mountain. Now imagine just feeling like you climbed it. The thrill, the exhaustion, the view from the summit, all simulated. One feels real, the other hollow. That's the heart of Nozick's point. Pleasure alone isn't enough. Without struggle, there's no triumph. Without risk, there's no reward. Life without the chance of failure loses its meaning. And what about control? Once inside the machine, your path is locked. You're not making real choices, just watching a programmed movie play in your mind. But real life is full of surprises, mistakes, and unexpected joy. The freedom to choose, to fail, and to grow. That's what makes us who we are. The machine reflects a deeper truth, our desire for self-discovery. In real life, we evolve through our choices. In the machine, we only get what we think we want, not what life might surprise us with. There's no space for growth, no room for discovery, no chance to become something more than we imagined. Nozick never claimed the machine was real. He just used it to ask a hard question. Is happiness the only thing that matters? Or is it the kind of happiness that counts? The kind that comes with scars, with stories, with victories earned the hard way. If we say no to the machine, we're saying we want lives that are messy, unpredictable, and real. Ultimately, the experience machine forces us to define our own purpose. What do we value more, comfort or authenticity? Safety or meaning? The machine offers perfect pleasure, but maybe we're searching for something deeper, not just to feel alive, but to be alive. The Library of Babel. What if every truth ever written is buried in endless nonsense? Imagine stepping into a library, so vast it contains every book ever written, and every book that could be written. A perfect copy of Shakespeare? It's there. A book describing your entire life in exact detail, that too. But surrounding them are infinite volumes of gibberish, and near misses and nonsense. Welcome to the Library of Babel, a dazzling idea from Jorge Luis Borges that explores the limits of knowledge, meaning, and infinity. In Borges's mind-bending story, the library is infinite, filled with books of every possible combination of letters. That means within its walls lie answers to every question ever asked, but good luck finding them. For every book that holds truth, there are millions that are nearly identical, but wrong. The result? An overwhelming flood of information, most of it meaningless. It's a stunning metaphor for human knowledge. We live in a world overflowing with data, yet clarity is rare. In Borges' universe, just like ours, the problem isn't lack of information. It's sorting the real from the false. The library contains everything, but offers no map to what's valuable. Truth and nonsense sit side by side, indistinguishable without context. And that's the philosophical punch. In an infinite universe, even if all knowledge exists, most of it is unreachable. Imagine searching for one sentence that makes sense in a sea of random letters. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a hurricane. The library shows us that abundance doesn't equal understanding. In fact, it can make it harder to find meaning at all. In many ways, Borges predicted the modern internet. We have endless access to information, but we're drowning in it. Algorithms, misinformation, endless scrolling. It's today's version of the library's chaotic shelves. Borges saw it coming. A future where finding truth isn't about access, it's about discernment. But more than that, the Library of Babel is about the human desire to make sense of the world. The librarians in the story dedicate their lives to searching, not for power or wealth, but for meaning. Even when surrounded by madness, they cling to hope. That one book, that one truth, that spark of understanding. This quest mirrors our own. We too search, but for purpose, identity, answers. Even in a world that sometimes seems vast, cold and indifferent, we keep reading, keep exploring, keep asking. The library's chaos is also its beauty. Within it lies every possibility. And while we may never find the perfect book, the search itself becomes meaningful. Borges's library is both a paradise and a prison. It offers infinite knowledge, but also the crushing realization that truth may be lost in the noise. Still we search, not because we're guaranteed an answer, but because the journey defines us. It's not about the final page, it's about the courage to turn it. The infinite hotel paradox. Imagine walking into a hotel that never runs out of space, even when it's completely full. Sounds impossible, right? Welcome to Hilbert's Infinite Hotel, a mind-twisting thought experiment created by mathematician David Hilbert. At first glance, it looks like your typical grand hotel, except it has an infinite number of rooms. And even if every single one is occupied, somehow there's still room for more. This paradox doesn't just play with your imagination, it challenges how we understand space, numbers, and the very nature of infinity. You step into this vast, seemingly endless hotel, The lobby is packed with guests, and the receptionist informs you that every room is occupied. Yet they say there's still room for you. How? That's where infinity plays its strange hand. In Hilbert's hotel, the rules of logic bend in fascinating ways. What seems full is never truly full, and what seems fixed can always expand. So, how does the manager make room? It's surprisingly simple. The guest in room 1 moves to room 2 moves to room 3, and so on. Each guest shifts over by one room, leaving room 1 free for the new arrival, you. It's a system that seems straightforward, but in the world of infinity, it reveals concepts that defy our everyday understanding of how things should work. Now take this a step further. What if a bus shows up with infinite passengers? Again, not a problem. The manager moves each current guest to double their room number. Room 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 3 to 6, and so on. Suddenly, all the odd-numbered rooms, infinitely many of them, are vacant for the new arrivals. It's this ability to create endless space that turns a simple shift into a cosmic concept. What's even more astonishing is that not all infinities are created equal. Mathematician Georg Cantor showed that some infinities are larger than others. The set of all whole numbers 1, 2, 3 is infinite, but the set of real numbers between 0 and 1 is an even bigger infinity. Hilbert's hotel represents what's called a countable infinity, where each guest can be assigned a room number. But uncountable infinities, like the real numbers, can't be listed this way. If guests arrive who each represent a unique decimal between 0 and 1, there's no way to place them in rooms without gaps. This highlights a fundamental idea. Some infinities contain others, a simple concept with mind-bending implications. Hilbert's paradox shows us that infinity is not a one-size-fits-all idea. In our finite world, when a hotel is full, it's full. No exceptions. But in Hilbert's universe, new rules apply. Infinity, by its very nature, breaks conventional logic. The paradox forces us to rethink what full really means, and how limits function when they stretch beyond the imaginable. This isn't just a mathematical trick. It has philosophical weight, too. If the hotel can always fit more, is it ever truly full? Can it ever truly grow? These questions aren't just playful. They strike at the core of how infinity reshapes space and logic in strange, unexpected ways. The infinite hotel isn't just a quirky mental exercise. It's a gateway to deeper questions in science and philosophy. In cosmology, if the universe is infinite, does that mean it's full of galaxies? Or is there always room for more? These are questions we face when we apply abstract math to the real cosmos. Ultimately, Hilbert's hotel gives us a rare mental lens to view infinity, not as a vague idea, but as something we can interact with, rearrange, fill, and explore. It shows us that infinity, though it seems like a mathematical fantasy, has the power to completely transform how we think about the universe and our place within it. In this hotel, there's always room for one more, and always another question to ask. The Fermi Paradox. Look up at the night sky. It's filled with stars, planets, and infinite possibilities. So, where is everyone? You're not the first to ask this. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi famously posed the question, where is everybody? This deceptively simple query lies at the heart of what we now call the Fermi Paradox, the mystery of why. In a universe teeming with planets and potential life, we haven't found any sign of extraterrestrial intelligence. At its core, the paradox highlights a strange contradiction. Statistically, intelligent life should exist elsewhere. The universe is ancient, with billions of galaxies and trillions of planets. Some of those planets should have conditions similar to Earth, and intelligent civilizations should have had more than enough time to evolve, develop technology, and reach out. And yet we've heard nothing but silence. One possible explanation is the Great Filter, a kind of cosmic roadblock that stops most life from advancing far. Maybe life itself is extremely rare, or maybe developing intelligent, spacefaring civilizations is nearly impossible. If the hardest part is behind us, that could mean we're lucky, possibly one of the first to make it through. But if the Great Filter is ahead of us, the silence might not be comforting. It could be a warning. Another theory suggests advanced civilizations are purposely quiet. Known as the zoo hypothesis, this idea imagines Earth as a cosmic nature reserve, where we're observed but never contacted. Maybe other beings are out there, silently watching us grow, just as zookeepers might observe animals in their natural habitat, fascinated but hands-off. But what if the problem isn't them, but us? Maybe we're looking in the wrong way. Our technology might be too primitive to pick up their signals. Imagine listening to a podcast with a broken radio. The message is out there, but you're on the wrong frequency. It's also possible that alien civilizations communicate using methods we can't even imagine, rendering our efforts effectively blind. Some scientists propose an even lonelier answer. We're alone. The rare Earth hypothesis suggests Earth-like conditions might be so uncommon that intelligent life elsewhere simply doesn't exist. That would make us a cosmic anomaly, the only storytellers in a quiet universe. Whether we're alone or not, the Fermi Paradox forces us to confront deep truths. It's not just about aliens. It's about understanding where we fit in the vastness of space. Are we a typical example of life in the universe, or something truly rare? Are we just at the beginning of a cosmic conversation, or the only ones left to speak? The paradox doesn't solve the mystery, but it opens a space for awe and curiosity. It reminds us that silence isn't the same as absence, and sometimes the lack of an answer is what keeps the wonder alive. The overview effect. Now imagine you're in space, floating above Earth, staring down at our fragile blue planet. In that moment, something changes inside you. The borders between nations disappear. The noise of daily life fades. You're struck by a sense of unity so powerful, it rewires how you see the world. This is the overview effect, a profound mental shift experienced by astronauts who see Earth from orbit. The overview effect is more than just a beautiful view. It's a radical change in perspective. Those who experience it often describe a wave of clarity, empathy, and interconnectedness. Suddenly, humanity seems like one single species, sharing one delicate world. Conflicts, politics, and divisions feel irrelevant in the face of such breathtaking unity. Coined by space philosopher Frank White in the 1980s, the term came from interviews with astronauts who spoke of this life-altering shift. From space, Earth looks like a tiny oasis, a thin film of life, clinging to a rock spinning in the void. That view sparks something powerful, a deep sense of responsibility to protect and preserve what we have. One of the most iconic expressions of this came from the Apollo 8 mission, when astronauts captured the Earthrise photo, the first time humans saw Earth from the moon's orbit. That image became a symbol of unity, helping fuel the environmental movement by showing just how alone and connected we truly are. Think of it like this. You've lived your whole life in one small town. One day you climb a mountain and see dozens of towns below. Rivers winding through valleys, forests stretching out for miles. Suddenly your town seems smaller and your view of the world grows. The overview effect is like that, but on a planetary scale. Many astronauts report that this experience changes them forever. Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell described it as a global consciousness, a sudden urge to make the world better. He returned to Earth with a mission to promote sustainability and environmental responsibility. It's not just a visual shift, it's a philosophical one. From space, the boundaries that divide us fade away. What remains is a single species on a shared planet with shared challenges and hopes. It forces a reconsideration of identity, not as Americans, or Russians or Chinese, but as Earthlings. Though most of us will never go to space, we can still access the overview effect. We can watch images of Earth from orbit, explore nature, and study the delicate balance of ecosystems. By embracing this mindset, we shift from thinking in terms of me to we, from self-interest to collective care. In a time when the world feels more divided than ever, the overview effect offers a powerful reminder. We all live on the same fragile spaceship, hurtling through the universe, and we all share responsibility for keeping it safe, beautiful, and alive. The spotlight effect. Ever spilled coffee on yourself in public and suddenly felt like you're on stage, under a giant spotlight? That rising panic, the heat in your cheeks, it's the feeling that everyone is watching you. In reality, they're probably not. This intense self-awareness is the heart of the spotlight effect, a psychological illusion where we wildly overestimate how much others notice our flaws, mistakes, or even successes. Imagine wearing glasses that exaggerate how visible you are. But here's the twist. Everyone else is wearing their own pair, focused on themselves. This term was coined in 1999 by psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky. In one famous study, students were asked to wear an embarrassing t-shirt. They thought half the room would notice. In truth, only a quarter did. It makes sense, though. You are the main character in your own life. Every mistake feels magnified, like a blooper on a massive screen. But while your internal movie is playing, everyone else is caught up in theirs. That stain on your shirt? They probably didn't even see it. That awkward comment you made? Forgotten within seconds. Take Sarah, a speaker who once fumbled over a sentence during her talk. She obsessed over it for days, sure it ruined her whole presentation. But when she asked attendees later, they didn't remember the mistake. They remembered how confident she seemed. What felt like a spotlight moment to her barely registered to others. This theory is surprisingly freeing. We're more important in our own heads and less important in others. That's not cold, it's comforting. Everyone is too busy worrying about themselves to focus on your small stumbles. Their spotlights are firmly turned inward. So the next time you feel embarrassed, pause. Chances are no one noticed, or if they did, they didn't care. We're all living in self-directed films, with limited screen time for side characters, yours and theirs, and that knowledge can be your escape from the imaginary spotlight. The Barnum Effect. You're a deep thinker, but sometimes doubt yourself. You crave approval yet value independence. Sound familiar? That vague personality. Reading probably feels tailored to you, almost eerily accurate, but it's not. You've just experienced the Barnum Effect, the tendency to believe broad. Generic statements are unique to us when they actually apply to nearly everyone. Named after showman P.T. Barnum, famous for saying there's a sucker born every minute, this phenomenon tricks our minds into mistaking a mirror for a portrait. These flattering generalities speak to common human experiences, but they feel intimate because we want them to be. In 1948, psychologist Bertram Foray proved this with a clever experiment. He gave his students personality tests, then handed them all the exact same analysis. Each student rated it as highly accurate, despite the fact they were reading the same thing. It was like giving everyone the same diary and having them believe it was theirs. Horoscopes, fortune tellers, and personality quizzes all lean into this effect. You're emotional but logical. You seek connection but guard your heart. These are double-headed statements. They sound specific, but are crafted to fit anyone. It's like wearing a one-size-fits-all sweater stitched to feel custom. Even social media plays along. Think about quizzes like, which Greek god are you? Or what's your spirit animal? They give you just enough personal language to make you nod along, even though the same result could apply to thousands of people. But this isn't about becoming cynical. It's about awareness. Understanding the Barnum Effect helps us approach flattery, self-discovery tools, and even compliments with a bit more perspective. It helps separate truth from sugarcoating. So next time something gets you perfectly, say pause and ask, is it uniquely mine or just universally human? And in that distinction lies the real journey to self-understanding. The Mandala Effect. Ever remembered something vividly, only to find out it never happened that way? Maybe you swear the Monopoly man had a monocle, or that the Fruit of the Loom logo had a cornucopia. Spoiler, neither is true. Welcome to the strange world of the Mandela Effect, where large groups of people collectively remember things that never actually happened. The name comes from a striking example. In 2009, researcher Fiona Broom discovered that thousands of people, herself included, remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s. But Mandela was released in 1990 and died in 2013. How could so many people remember something that never occurred? Memory isn't a perfect recording. It's more like a story told over time, shaped by emotion, context, and even other people. When we recall something, we're not replaying footage, we're reconstructing it. And like in a game of telephone, the story can subtly change each time. Let's explore more examples. Many people remember Looney Tunes, Addis, but it's actually Looney Tunes. Or the famous line, Luke, I am your father. Never said. These are more than just mix-ups. They're shared glitches in our collective memory. Why does this happen? One reason is confabulation. Our brain fills in gaps with details that make sense. If a cartoon character seems like they should wear a monocle, we subconsciously add it. Another reason is social reinforcement. If enough people believe something, we're more likely to believe it too. Some theories go wild, suggesting alternate timelines or parallel universes. While science doesn't confirm that, these ideas reflect our deep need to explain what doesn't fit into reality. They show how powerful and fragile a memory can be. The Mandela Effect reminds us that truth and memory don't always align. But maybe the real value isn't in accuracy. It's in the stories we share, even if they're slightly off. After all, memory is more about meaning than detail, and meaning is what makes us human. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. You learn a new word, and suddenly it's everywhere. What's going on? It's not magic. It's the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, also called the frequency illusion, a strange trick of the mind, where something seems to appear more often once we've noticed it for the first time. Your brain is constantly filtering the world. Most information passes by unseen. But the moment something grabs your attention, a car model, a phrase, a name, your brain tunes in, like switching to a new radio frequency. Suddenly that new thing pops up in ads, books, even random conversations. The term came about when a man heard the name Baader-Meinhof twice in a day and thought it was a bizarre coincidence. But it wasn't chance. It was his brain's new filter kicking in. From then on, he just noticed it more. This phenomenon combines two mental processes. First is selective attention. Your mind zooms in on things it now finds relevant. Second is confirmation bias. Once you're primed, you look for evidence that what you noticed is everywhere, reinforcing the illusion. Take Sarah, an art student. She learns about chiaroscuro, a lighting technique. Suddenly she sees it in paintings, films, Instagram posts. It didn't appear overnight, she just learned to see it. Her attention rewrote her perception. This effect reveals a beautiful truth. Our reality isn't just what's around us, it's what we notice. Every day the world presents thousands of patterns, but our awareness decides which ones come into focus. The rest fade into background noise. It's a reminder that what we think is new may have always been there, waiting for us to notice. And what you focus on can literally shape how the world looks to you. So the next time something seems to suddenly appear everywhere, smile. You've simply unlocked a new layer of the world, the philosophical razor of Halon. Sometimes the simplest truths cut the deepest. Imagine you're fuming, waiting for a crucial email that never arrives. Hours turn into days and your mind starts to spiral. Are they ignoring me? Trying to sabotage my work, whispering about me behind closed doors. But then reality lands with a thud. They misspelled your email address. That's Halon's razor in motion. This razor-sharp idea, often summed up as never attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity, may sound blunt, but it's a profoundly liberating way to interpret human behavior. Named after Robert J. Halon, though its roots stretch deeper into philosophical history, it challenges our instinct to assume ill intent when a simpler explanation suffices. Picture it like a special lens. When you wear it, the fog of paranoia lifts, and what once seemed like personal attacks suddenly look like honest blunders. Let's take Sarah, a diligent software developer. She spent weeks thinking her colleague was sabotaging her work. Out of jealousy, rewriting her code, skipping reviews, whispering to the manager. But the truth? He was silently battling undiagnosed ADHD, overwhelmed but trying. When Sarah viewed the situation through Halon's razor, suspicion melted into empathy. But why do we leap to malice first? Blame evolution. Our ancestors survived by being cautious, assuming the rustle in the grass meant danger, not just wind. This ancient wiring helps us avoid threats, but can mislead us in modern life. Today it causes us to see enemies, where there are only exhausted co-workers or distracted friends. Halon's razor isn't just theory. It's a mindset shift with practical power. At work, it dissolves toxic assumptions and fosters collaboration. In relationships, it prevents emotional overreactions. And in daily life, it can ease the mental load of constant misinterpretation. So the next time your friend doesn't text back, or a driver cuts you off, or a cashier seems cold, pause. Maybe they're tired, distracted, or carrying a burden you can't see? That doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it reframes your response. Importantly, Halon's razor isn't a pass for everything. It doesn't deny that malice exists, just reminds us it's often the less likely answer. Use it as a diagnostic tool, not a final judgment. Human beings, more often than not, aren't plotting against us. They're just trying to function amid their own chaos. Ultimately, Halon's razor invites us to extend the kind of grace we hope others extend to us. Because who hasn't been misread? Are mistakes mistaken for intention? As you reflect on your own frustrations, ask, what if this wasn't personal? What if it was just human error? In doing so, you might step into a world that feels less hostile and a lot more human. The Occam's razor. When faced with mystery, your brain loves a plot twist. But the truth? It's often surprisingly dull. You're strolling through a quiet garden and hear hoofbeats. Do you picture a horse or a zebra, ridden by a unicorn escaping a top-secret lab? This quirky question introduces one of philosophy's sharpest mental tools, Occam's razor. Named after 14th century philosopher William of Occam, this principle tells us the simplest explanation is usually the best. But it's not about being lazy. It's about reducing assumptions and cutting through complexity to reveal the truth. Imagine you're a detective at a jewelry store heist. One theory: a seasoned thief used tools to crack the safe. Another: aliens beamed the jewels away while hypnotizing the guards. Fun? Yes. Probable? Not even close. Occam's razor guides us to the first explanation because it makes fewer leaps of logic. Why does simplicity lead us closer to truth? Think of a house of cards. The more you stack, the shakier it gets. Each extra assumption adds instability. Similarly, the more outlandish a theory, the more conditions must align for it to be true. That's why simpler theories tend to hold. Historically, this principle transformed science. Before Copernicus, astronomers added layer upon layer of circles to explain the motion of planets. Then Copernicus offered a leaner idea. What if everything just orbits the sun? It was controversial, but it worked better than the bloated models before it. But remember, simplicity isn't always the answer. Quantum physics is baffling and wildly complex. Occam's razor doesn't say ignore complexity. It says only add it when absolutely necessary. In everyday life, this tool is gold. Phone not working? Check the charger before calling the FBI. Friend misses lunch? They might have forgotten, not been abducted. A strange bump in the night? Maybe the cat, not a ghost. Our brains crave drama, which is why conspiracy theories and elaborate guesses feel so satisfying. But the real magic lies in appreciating straightforward truths. When you stop inventing stories, you start seeing reality more clearly, and that's incredibly grounding. So next time your mind drifts into complex theories, stop and ask, what's the simplest, most likely explanation? Because more often than not, truth isn't hiding behind layers of mystery. It's right in front of you. Plain and powerful. The lottery of birth theory. What if your entire life, your language, your talents, your struggles began with a single random ticket? Before you took your first breath, before you ever made a choice, you unknowingly participated in the most consequential lottery imaginable, the lottery of birth. This profound concept urges us to rethink how we view success, failure, and fairness. You didn't choose your birthplace, your family, your DNA, or the society you were dropped into. You didn't select your skin color, economic status, or early education. All of this was handed to you randomly. Think of life as a massive stage play. Some are born into the spotlight, others into the shadows. The roles, resources, and scripts were all handed out before the curtain rose. This doesn't mean effort doesn't matter, but it highlights that the game started before you even entered the arena. Warren Buffett once called himself lucky to have won the ovarian lottery. Born male, white in 20th century America, with access to elite education and resources, his starting point gave him a head start. Most people never get. His honesty underscores a vital truth. Success isn't just about effort. It's also about circumstance. Consider two children. One is born in a rural village with no clean water or school. Another is born in Silicon Valley to tech elite parents. Both may have the same raw intelligence, but their paths in life will be wildly different. Not because of choices, but because of where the dice landed. This theory reframes our understanding of merit. It's not that hard work doesn't count. It absolutely does. But it's easier to succeed when you're handed better cards. It's like playing poker. Skill matters, but so does the hand you're dealt. Recognizing this doesn't promote guilt. It invites responsibility. If you've been lucky in life, how can you use that to help others who weren't? Privilege becomes a platform for empathy, not shame. Ultimately, the lottery of birth theory calls us to compassion. The homeless man, the refugee, the billionaire, all are players in a game they didn't choose. What we do with our luck is up to us, but understanding the game changes how we see those around us. The Capgras delusion theory. Imagine seeing someone you love deeply and feeling with terrifying certainty that they've been replaced. They look the same, smile the same, speak the same, but your gut screams that's not them. Welcome to the haunting world of Capgras. Delusion, a rare psychological condition that bends the boundaries of identity, memory, and love. First described by French psychiatrist Joseph Capgras in 1923, this phenomenon reveals a startling glitch in how our minds connect recognition with emotion. People with this delusion can visually recognize loved ones but feel no emotional bond. The result? The brain concludes this must be an imposter. Let's break it down. Imagine your brain is like a high-security museum. One system scans faces, visual recognition, while another triggers emotional responses, emotional memory. Usually these systems sync. You see your mum, you feel love. Your partner walks in, you feel warmth. But in Capgras delusion, the visual system is fine. The emotional connection, severed. It's like seeing a photo of someone close to you, familiar but emotionally flat. Now imagine that's your entire reality. That disconnect leads the brain to invent a story. They look like them, but something's missing. They must be a fake. This condition doesn't just interest psychiatrists, it fascinates philosophers and neuroscientists alike. It highlights how our experience of reality isn't just about what we see, but what we feel. Recognition, it turns out, isn't only visual, it's deeply emotional. Think of it this way. When you hug someone you love, it's not just their face you recognize, it's a symphony of emotional memories. A smile, a tone, a warmth. Strip that emotional layer away, and suddenly even the most familiar face becomes alien. Capgras delusion reminds us of just how intricate our consciousness is. Our sense of reality, identity, and connection isn't a single thread. It's a woven tapestry of different systems working in harmony. When one thread snaps, the illusion of seamless perception unravels. As you wind down tonight, think about how many unseen processes in your brain allow you to recognize, love, and connect. Capgras delusion doesn't just reveal a condition. It reveals the miracle of how our minds make us feel at home in a world of faces. The Uncanny Valley theory. Have you ever stared into the eyes of a hyper-realistic robot or lifelike CGI character and felt an odd shiver down your spine? Everything about them seems nearly perfect, but something's just off. That strange unease you're feeling isn't in your imagination. It's a phenomenon called the Uncanny Valley, introduced by robotics professor Masahiro Mori. This curious dip in comfort reveals more about us than the machines we build. Imagine you're in a toy store. A soft, cartoonish teddy bear greets you with innocent charm, clearly not human, but warmly familiar. A wooden doll sits nearby. Simple, artificial, but still endearing. And then you spot it, a humanoid figure with lifelike skin, blinking eyes, and a strangely perfect smile. Suddenly your comfort evaporates. Instead of charm, there's tension. You've entered the Uncanny Valley. The theory proposes that as robots or artificial characters grow more human-like, our emotional connection to them improves, but only to a point. When they get too close to human, yet remain just imperfect enough to be noticeably artificial, our brain rebels. Our comfort level plummets into a psychological valley, a space filled with discomfort, eeriness, or even fear. It's as though we climbed a hill of trust only to fall into a ditch of doubt just before the summit. But why does this valley exist at all? Some scientists believe it's an evolutionary safeguard, helping our ancestors avoid disease or death by sensing when something looked off. Others argue it taps into our deeply wired ability to detect what is genuinely human, like how a single wrong note can ruin a beautiful melody. Our brains are tuned to perfection, not in the literal sense, but in the deeply intuitive one. Like how we instantly sense when a musical instrument is just slightly out of tune, we can detect even minor anomalies in movement, expression, or proportions. And it's in these almost but not quite cases that discomfort creeps in. The uncanny valley doesn't stop at robotics or animation. It questions the very nature of being human. As our technology gets better at mimicking life, think AI influencers, lifelike avatars, and interactive bots, the line between real and artificial grows thinner. But the valley remains, reminding us of the fine details that define true humanity. Maybe that's the true beauty of the theory. It holds up a mirror. These almost human creations show us not what they lack, but what we have. Every micro-expression, every imperfect blink, every subtle gesture reminds us of the richness that comes with being genuinely human. So as you lie here drifting into sleep, consider this. Perhaps our discomfort in the valley isn't fear of what's artificial, but recognition of what makes us wonderfully real. The philosophical concept of Yugen. Picture this. You're standing by the ocean at dusk. The last streak of sunlight vanishes as wild geese disappear into the soft haze of a clouded moon. There's a stillness, a quiet ache that doesn't quite have words. That sensation, that haunting beauty just out of reach is known in Japanese philosophy as Yugen. Yugen can be translated as mysterious profundity, but it's not something words can fully capture. It's not about what's in front of you, but what's hidden just beyond sight, what your soul feels without being told. Think of it as the emotion that lingers between the lines of a poem, or the silence that deepens a piece of music. Imagine walking through a forest touched by autumn. Light filters through the trees, casting delicate shadows across the ground. Yugen lives not in the light or the trees, but in that quiet suggestion that something more is present, something deeper, almost sacred. You might have felt Yugen when looking up at a night sky and suddenly grasping the scale of the universe, or when a wind chime rings faintly from somewhere you can't see, stirring memories you can't quite place. In art, Yugen is the space left intentionally blank. In theater, it's the pause that says more than any line. In poetry, it's the meaning hidden between carefully chosen words. Even modern science echoes this ancient idea. Quantum physics, dark matter, and the mysteries of consciousness all suggest that the universe is more unknowable than we ever imagined. Yugen whispers that mystery is not a problem to solve, but a truth to embrace. Apply this to your own awareness. Just as we can't see the wind, only its effects, we can't see consciousness, only thoughts and feelings. Yugen is that space between what we know and what we sense. It's the beauty of a disappearing boat on the horizon, not the boat, but the endless journey it hints at. In today's fast-paced, always-on world, Yugen invites us to pause, to feel rather than explain. It tells us that the most meaningful moments aren't the loud ones, but the quiet, ones that move us without reason. As you begin to slip into sleep, allow yourself to feel the Yugen of this moment, the soft edge between waking and dreaming, and know that in mystery there is meaning, perhaps the deepest kind of all. The concept of Ma. Pause for a moment, not to fill the silence, but to notice it. That space, the breath between two sentences, the pause before a violin string is touched, the stillness between waves. That's me, a Japanese aesthetic and philosophical concept that celebrates the importance of emptiness, of the in-between. At first glance, Ma may seem like nothingness, but in truth it is everything that gives meaning to something else. Just as music is defined not only by the notes, but by the spaces between them, life too is shaped not just by action, but by stillness. Imagine a traditional Japanese tea room, minimal, quiet, serene. The arrangement of space isn't accidental. Every gap, every empty surface, every quiet pause is intentional. Ma lives in that space. It's not absence, it's presence defined by restraint. And in that restraint, beauty emerges. In conversation, Ma is the respectful pause that allows words to land softly, giving them depth. In design, Ma is negative space, what the West calls minimalism, but it's not merely a style, it's a way of being. In life, Ma is the breath you take before responding in anger, the moment of quiet reflection before making a choice. We often rush to fill every silence with noise, every second with productivity. But Ma reminds us that spaciousness is not emptiness. It's where reflection happens, where clarity lives, where truth waits to be noticed. Think of the night sky, not just as a canvas of stars, but of space. Without the vast dark stretches between each star, and we wouldn't see the constellations at all. Without silence, there is no music. Without space, there is no form. Without Ma, there is no meaning. So as you lay back and breathe gently, allow yourself to feel the richness of this moment, not for what it holds, but for what it leaves open. Let Ma wrap around your thoughts and remind you that life isn't just in the doing, but in the being too. The concept of Wabi-Sabi. Now imagine a ceramic bowl. It's cracked at the rim, slightly uneven, its glaze faded and textured by time. And yet, it's beautiful, maybe because of its imperfections. That's the essence of Wabi-Sabi, the Japanese worldview that finds beauty in the aged, the imperfect, and the incomplete. Wabi-Sabi teaches us to let go of our obsession with perfection. In nature, nothing is symmetrical or flawless, yet a gnarled tree, a weathered stone, or a fading autumn leaf carries a kind of profound elegance. That beauty is raw, honest, grounded. Wabi originally referred to a kind of rustic simplicity, a quiet, humble life in harmony with nature. Sabi speaks to the passage of time, the beauty that emerges with age and wear. Together, Wabi-Sabi isn't just an aesthetic, it's a gentle way of seeing the world. In a Wabi-Sabi home, there are no sharp glimmers of luxury. Instead, there are creaking wooden floors, soft lighting, handmade bowls, and furniture that tells a story. In a Wabi-Sabi life, you don't strive for Instagram-worthy perfection. You find peace in slow mornings, messy handwriting, and the way your favorite mug is chipped but irreplaceable. This philosophy whispers to us in a world that's always chasing the next upgrade. You don't need to be perfect to be enough. You might see it in your own reflection, smile lines forming around your eyes, silver strands in your hair, scars that carry stories. Wabi-Sabi reminds us that these are not flaws, but fingerprints of time, evidence of a life lived deeply. In letting go of the chase for flawless success, we begin to appreciate the subtle richness of now. So tonight, as you slow your breath and let your muscles soften, let Wabi-Sabi guide you. Let go of the polished surface. Embrace the quiet truth. You are beautiful as you are in this moment, with all your perfect imperfections. Mono no aware. Finally allow your mind to drift like falling cherry blossoms. Soft, slow, inevitable. That gentle sadness you feel as something beautiful fades. That's mono no aware, a delicate Japanese concept that translates loosely to the pathos of things, or the gentle sorrow of impermanence. It's the ache behind beauty, the emotional pull of knowing that nothing lasts forever. It's the lump in your throat as summer ends, the hush you feel watching an old couple hold hands, the way your heart quietly tightens as a favorite book comes to its final page. Mono no aware isn't despair. It's not about clinging to what's fading. It's about feeling it fully, honoring the fragility of each moment, like watching a snowflake melt on your hand, not trying to stop it, but recognizing its short life as profoundly meaningful. The cherry blossom, fleeting, fragile, breathtaking, is the symbol of this idea. Their beauty is inseparable from their brief bloom. They fall not with tragedy but with grace, and so it is with life. Mono no aware teaches us that emotions are not weaknesses, that tears aren't failures, that noticing beauty as it slips away is one of the most human things we can do. Let this idea soften your heart as you rest tonight. Let it remind you that each moment is a once-in-a-lifetime event, never repeated, never perfect, but always worthy of your presence. In a world chasing permanence, Mono no aware invites us to love more deeply, not in spite of things ending, but because they do. As your eyes close, let your breath rise and fall like cherry blossoms in the breeze. And know this, in the fleeting nature of things, there is a gentle and everlasting beauty, the glass child syndrome. Imagine a family photograph where one child seems to fade into the background like light passing through glass they present, yet somehow, transparent, bearing the weight of being simultaneously visible and unseen. This is the essence of what we call the glass child syndrome, a profound psychological phenomenon that affects siblings of children with special needs or chronic conditions. The term glass child was coined by Alicia Arenas, who grew up as the sibling of a child with special needs. She describes glass children as those who watch life happen through a transparent wall, seeing everything, feeling everything, but often going unnoticed in the intensity of their family situation. Think of a garden where one plant requires constant attention, special care and extra resources to survive. While the gardener's dedication is necessary and beautiful, the other plants must learn to grow. In whatever light filters through, they become resilient, but they also become transparent. Like glass, children often develop remarkable characteristics, extraordinary empathy at a young age, advanced emotional intelligence, strong self-reliance. Imagine holding two glasses, one visibly cracked and requiring careful handling, the other seemingly perfect and sturdy. The world naturally focuses on protecting the cracked glass, while the sturdy one is expected to need no special care. But glass, no matter how strong it appears, still needs gentle handling and attention. These children often develop what psychologists call precocious maturity, growing up too fast, too soon, like a greenhouse plant forced to bloom early. They develop survival mechanisms that are both impressive and poignant to the glass children. Listening, your transparency isn't invisibility. Your strength isn't invulnerability. Your maturity isn't a barrier to needing support, like a prism that appears clear, yet contains all the colors of the rainbow. You hold depths that deserve to be seen and understood. If you're a glass child, know that your experiences have shaped you but don't define you. Like light passing through a prism, your challenges can transform into unique strengths and profound wisdom. The glass child syndrome reminds us that sometimes the most resilient among us are the ones who appear the strongest. It teaches us to look more carefully at those who seem to need us least, to listen more attentively to those who complain the least, and to remember that strength, like glass, can be both remarkable and fragile. As you drift towards sleep, remember that being transparent doesn't make you invisible. Like the most beautiful glass art, your experiences have created patterns of light and shadow that make you uniquely precious, test worthy of attention. The philosophical parking lot theory. Have you ever noticed how when you're desperately searching for a parking spot, it seems impossible to find one? But the moment you give up into some to leave, several perfect spots appear. This seemingly mundane experience reveals a profound truth about human psychology and the nature of desire. Welcome to the philosophical parking lot theory. This theory isn't just about parking spaces. It's a metaphor for life's most persistent paradox, the way our desperate desire for something often becomes the very thing that prevents us from obtaining it. When we grip too tightly, what we seek seems to slip through our fingers. Imagine yourself circling a busy parking lot. Each loop increases, your anxiety, your frustration growing with every filled space. Your mind becomes fixated on finding the perfect spot. In this state of desperate seeking, you might miss perfectly good spaces because they don't match your ideal, or you might be too tense to smoothly maneuver into an available spot. When you do find one, first, the law of inverse effort. The harder you try to find something, the more it eludes you. This isn't just about parking spots. Think about trying to fall asleep, finding love, or achieving happiness. Often the more desperately we pursue these things, the further they seem to drift away. Second, the paradox of attachment. When we become too attached to a specific outcome, we become blind to other possibilities. Like a driver fixated on finding a spot near the entrance, we might miss multiple suitable spaces slightly further away. Third, the liberation of surrender. The moment we truly let go of our desperate search, our perception shifts. We become more relaxed, more aware, and ironically more likely to find what we're looking for. Think of it like trying to see a star in the night sky. If you look directly at it, it might seem to disappear. But when you relax your gaze and look slightly to the side, suddenly the star becomes visible. This is called averted vision in astronomy, but it applies to many aspects of life. This theory connects deeply with ancient wisdom. Traditions Buddhists speak of non-attachment, theists of woo effortless action, and Stoics of accepting what we cannot control. The parking lot becomes a modern meditation on these timeless truths. The theory suggests a profound truth. Sometimes our greatest obstacle isn't external circumstances, but our own desperate desire for control, like a tightly clenched fist that cannot receive anything new. A mind fixated on one specific outcome becomes blind to other possibilities. As you rest here, notice how this principle might apply to sleep itself. The more we try to force ourselves to sleep, the more elusive it becomes. But when we relax and let go of the need to sleep, we create the very conditions that allow sleep to arrive naturally. The philosophical parking lot theory reminds us that sometimes the best way forward is to ease our grip on what we seek. It suggests that life's gifts often come not through force of will, but through a delicate balance of intention and surrender. As you drift towards sleep, remember that, like finding the perfect parking spot, some of life's most sought-after experiences come not when we chase them desperately, but when we create the space for them to appear naturally. The Codex Seraphinianus theory. Imagine you're holding a beautifully bound, thick, mysterious book in your hands. Its cover is adorned with intricate symbols, and as you open it, you're greeted by a series of surreal images: a strange plant morphing into a chairfish swimming through rainbow colored clouds, and people merging with their surroundings in bizarre ways. Every page is filled with an unfamiliar language, one no one has ever been able to decode. Welcome to the world of the Codex Seraphinianus, a book that has puzzled readers and scholars since its creation in the late 1970s. The Codex Seraphinianus, created by Italian artist and architect Luigi Seraffi, is perhaps one of the most enigmatic works of our time. The book resembles an encyclopedia and is filled with detailed illustrations of an imaginary world, each accompanied by text written in a bizarre, indecipherable script. Although it's been nearly 50 years since its creation, no one has cracked its language or unlocked its meaning, leading to countless theories about its purpose and message. The Codex's contents evoke a powerful sense of curiosity and wonder, not unlike the feeling we get from childhood fairy tales or fantasy novels. Just as Alice fell down the rabbit hole into Wonderland, readers of the Codex are transported into a surreal alien landscape where the usual rules of reality don't apply. There are familiar elements, plants, animals, cities, but they're all distorted, twisted into forms that challenge our perceptions of the real world. In many ways, the Codex Inanis embodies the human fascination with the unknown. We often seek to understand, categorize, and make sense of things, but what happens when something resists explanation? The Codex invites us into a world where we must accept mystery and ambiguity, embracing the strange and the unknowable. Some scholars suggest that this is precisely its point. It's a book that defies understanding, serving as a metaphor for the limits of human knowledge. One of the most compelling aspects of the Codex is its elaborate script. Seraphinianus created a flowing, looping text that looks like a language, but isn't recognizable to any known linguistic system. Over the years, many have tried to decode it, analyzing letter frequencies and structures, but no one has succeeded in translating a single word. The text appears to be consistent, as if governed by grammatical rules, and this has led some to believe it could indeed be a language, or perhaps a pseudo-language meant to mirror the way we interpret symbols. Some have suggested that the Codex's language serves as a mirror of our own experience with communication. Imagine, for example, an alien stumbling upon an English dictionary for the first time. They might recognize patterns and letters, but be completely unable to understand the meanings. The Codex's language could be a reminder of how foreign, even cryptic, communication can be, particularly in cultures we don't fully understand. It taps into our experience of outsiderness, of being presented with symbols we can't decipher yet sense are significant. The illustrations in the Codex seem designed to provoke thought rather than to inform. Unlike most encyclopedias, which offer straightforward information, the Codex presents images that are surreal, whimsical, and at times unsettling. Seraphine's drawings blend elements from natural history, architecture, and the human body, turning them into dreamlike scenes that can be interpreted in countless ways. There are hints of familiarity. The pages might show plants, animals, or people, but they are never exactly what we expect. This artistic choice may be Seraphine's way of demonstrating the flexibility and subjectivity of interpretation, just as We can all look at the same piece of abstract art and walk away with different impressions the Codex offers, each reader a unique experience. One person may see a metaphor for human transformation, another might see commentary on technology and nature. In this way, the Codex Seraphinianus almost invites readers to become creators themselves, constructing their own meanings and narratives as they navigate its pages. Another compelling theory is that the Codex is a critique of our obsession with categorization and order. Think of an encyclopedia. It's a reference book intended to provide clear factual information, but the Codex takes this format and fills it with ambiguity and fantasy, as if to remind us of the limitations inherent in human knowledge. In creating a text that resists categorization, Seraphinianus may be hinting that the world isn't always as understandable as we'd like it to be. Life, like the Codex, contains mysteries that can't always be decoded or reduced to neat definitions. This sense of ambiguity resonates with the philosophy of absurdism, where the search for meaning meets the inherent meaninglessness of the universe. Much like Albert Camus's asterisk myth of Copus, in which Copus endlessly pushes a boulder up a hill only for it to roll back down, readers of the Codex are engaged in a quest to understand something that defies understanding. It's a journey without a destination, an intellectual exercise that invites us to explore without expecting concrete answers. Ultimately, the Codex Seraphinianus isn't just a strange book. It's an experience that challenges us to think differently in a world where we crave explanations and clarity. The Codex offers something rare, an invitation to embrace the unknown. It reminds us that not all mysteries are meant to be solved, and that sometimes the beauty of art and life lies in the unanswered questions. By letting go of our need to decipher its language and images, we can begin to appreciate the CX as it is a surreal, immersive art piece that mirrors the wonder and mystery of existence itself. Like a dream, it slips away when we try to grasp it, leaving us with only the feeling that we've glimpsed something beyond words.